Well, the time has arrived. Back in December, they did announce that the next episode of Icebrood Saga will come out on January 28th. That date has been reinforced here. But today, about 2 weeks earlier than that, well, they've given us information about what's coming up. I like doing it 2 weeks earlier. It gives us plenty of time to talk and speculate and enjoy the trailers. So here it is. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about the new release, what the devs have announced so far. I'm sure there'll be interviews and things we can catch up on too, and do a bit of a trailer analysis for what's going on. I guess the first thing to do really is just check out the trailer in whole without me interrupting it and commentating on it, and then we'll talk about all the features they announce here on this release page. So let's jump in.
You are all wondering why I've called for you. The Coden ignore our voices. They cannot speak to Ox, Eagle, or Wolverine. But Bram can.
Why me?
You are a Norn of prophecy, but you are not yet true Norn. Take the Lost Spirit's power. Use it against Drakkar. Only then will you find a place for my spirit within your own.
Wow, so there you have it. Interesting trailer. What really struck me was all the new music that they seem to have scored. We had, what, 3 different tracks there, maybe? There's a lot of weird stuff going on with the lore we'll talk about very soon. And, of course, they did actually seem to put some good effort in that. It tells you us all the different features. It cuts through quite quickly, lots of different cinematics. We'll slow it down and have a look in a second. But starting off with the release page, just to see what the devs say about these features that were just hinted at. The synopsis for the release, this is not a spoiler, is Ritlock and Kreisha have fallen out of contact, and now it seems Bram is striking out on his own to find them. This is the worst moment for your allies to isolate themselves, touch base with Javi at Jorah's Keep, and learn what she knows. Yeah, so last release, we obviously had the whispering in our head. It was very creepy. It was ominous. We heard from the presentation last summer that the first 2 episodes would be done like Season 2's Dry Top. That it wouldn't be a new map. They were going to expand the previous one. I really love Dry Top. It was one of my favorite maps the devs have ever added. So I hope that this new map expansion will tap into what was so fun about that back then. But yeah, it does seem like we shouldn't be out on our own. And now we've got this idea that Bram's going to be off on his own. These 2 are going to be off on their own. It's interesting. It says here that Bram's striking out on his own. And yet the trailer... Sorry, on his own to find them. And on the trailer, it seems like he's got his own incentive to do something else because of Wolf speaking to him. I guess maybe this is the initial start of the story, and my guess is that while he's out on his own looking for these 2, he runs into the Shrine of the Wolf or whatever, and we see what's going on. Obviously, you've got to be careful with moments like that. That dialogue in the trailer, is it actually a Spirit of the Wild, or is it just Jormag, again, manipulating us and talking to us sweetly in our ear? Who do we really believe? Obviously, they had that whole initial announcement of the saga that really sounded like it could have been anything, and then it turned out to be the dragon itself talking to us. Pretty cool. So, talking about features, we've got Bureau Marches, Further into Danger. Explore the hidden half of the deathly cold in Bureau Marches, where you experience new trials of code and map events with unique achievements and face the cunning, insidious world boss, Drakkar. So, where does the map actually expand to? I believe the answer is it's going west? I thought for a while it might be south, but I think there was some kind of data mine or something suggested it might be west. I could be wrong on that. In any case, if you think about the western flank of the map as it currently stands, for those of you who played the patch a lot, it does seem there's some good amount of expansion they could do there. That also continues to overlap with Guild Wars 1 territories, which players tend to enjoy, even though that's not really necessary. We get a couple of screenshots overlapping with some of the stuff we saw in the trailer. We got the Raven Attunement and Essence Manipulation new mastery tiers. So in episode 1, we got 3 masteries at once. They were all very convoluted, had loads of stuff going on them. The gameplay itself didn't really require you to learn it that much. Well, now there's another tier going on top of them, and I would expect New Living World to expand on this. What they've done is they say, strengthen your bond with Raven to unlock new Raven attunement abilities. A third tier of manipulation will give you greater command of resilience, valor, and vigilance. I don't think this second bit we quite know what that means yet. Already, it's a mastery that's given you, like, all kinds of boons and benefits, and it doesn't unlock a special action for you periodically that does massive damage and massive break bar damage. The map also had the extra thing where if you did the Raven Sanctum each day, you could give yourself free alacrity and quickness. There's so many mechanics on this map, really. And again, so many of them feel somewhat unnecessary for the current meta event. I'm just hoping that with this new world boss, as they mentioned here, the insidious world boss Drakar, I'm hoping that all this stuff starts coming together, that all those tiers and everything now mean something, and doing the Raven Sanctum means something, because this guy's supposed to be challenging. I do remember, and I'm not very confident the devs will do this, but do remember when they did the presentation, they suggested that Drakar would be a little bit more like the Tequatl world boss remake, or like the Triple Trouble. I'm expecting it will be more like Marionette level than anything else, but you never know. And the more challenging they make it, the more all this other stuff becomes important. They also say this, though, with the Raven specifically, and we've seen in the trailer, it looks like people teleport around. Masteries that give you teleportation aren't exactly new, but I do enjoy them. Obviously, with Path of Fire, we had the Sand Portals, which was pretty much just another version of using Wallows in Heart of Thorns, and there's been all kinds of teleport mechanics as the game's gone along, obviously. But I've always kind of been in favor of, if they find a good mastery, it's alright if it's kind of gets a reskin and you have a new excuse to learn it. Like, if they did another version of Thermal Vents, would I really be that mad? No, not really, as long as it's got some cool new theme. And the idea of the mastery system, what's exciting is having things to go for and working towards stuff. I'm not actually expecting ArenaNet to have an MMO where for the next 5 years, they are constantly, every single time a patch comes out, making a new mastery that is an entirely new, unbroached horizon. Like, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, it's kind of something we've seen before. I'm guessing there'll be mount disabled areas in this new place, just like we saw when the Saga started and we first went to the Shiver Peaks and we were in that story instance and it said, you know, it's too cold for your mounts. Because otherwise, why don't we just skyscale around or griffin around? That's something ArenaNet will have to keep butting heads with the mounts. And maybe there'll be more of this map that you can't just be mounted on and making it feel generally quite small. Next, there is a new strike mission. I have to admit that, well, here they say, face the whispers in your mind and the dark force driving them. I have to admit, I'm way less excited about a strike mission than I am about Drakar. Now, a lot of you guys listening to this video might think, oh, WP's just excited about Drakar because he's a Guild Wars 1 player and it's pandering to Guild Wars 1 stuff. I hope that you guys who have only played Guild Wars 2 don't get the wrong impression here. We really didn't interact with Drakar or know much about Drakar at all in Guild Wars 1. It was little more than an Easter egg, just a thing under the ice. It's not like you're missing out on this whole massive facet or dimension. It's just a new boss that's coming. Why I'm excited about it is because of what they said about the event being a little bit more like Triple Trouble or Tequatl, and maybe because it's seated with these interesting new mechanics. That's why I like the sound of it. The strike missions, meanwhile, well, they reworked one of them. We got 3 at once last patch, and I only did them all once. They reworked one to make it more challenging, but they really don't have great rewards or incentive for me. I tend to find that I'd rather not do random number generation stuff for strike missions. I'd rather just buy what you can earn from them from the TP, and I'm not playing them much. And look, this is all they say. Face the whispers in your mind and the dark force driving them. What does that mean? The screenshot even. If the screenshot above this here is meant to be... No, that's definitely the Raven teleport. That's fine. Maybe this is the strike mission? I guess. Maybe that portal there. But, hey, hopefully it's in a different arena and some fun new stuff's going on there. I think strikes are good. The devs just need to make these things a little bit more of a challenge. Maybe, or more lucrative. I'm not sure. And then finally they say new rewards. So this is what spurred most discussion online about the patch as far as I can tell. First, there is a new armor set for the new release. They keep doing this. I will compliment it every time. People want armors and stuff that aren't in the gem store. Well, you are getting them. It says traditionally worn by Norn Raven Shamans. What's quite interesting about this is this armor, and you can see it here, is going to be a variation that players can now wear of something that was in the game at launch, only as NPC armor. So the classic example I always think of this for Guild Wars as a franchise is in the original game, there's this random NPC in Ascalon with this badass fiery armor, but players could never wear it. Guild Wars 2 has its fair share of stuff like that. And here, if we go to the wiki page of the Shamans, you'll see there's a rendered image of it. Here you can see, but these have not been acquirable by the players. You can't actually wear or look like this. There's no town clothes tonic or anything. Maybe initially the devs had an idea of doing that with town clothes, but obviously the system changed a lot. So this was never available. Well, now they've tuned it up, changed it. I'm guessing it won't be cultural and only available for Norn, even though the screenshot does just show Norn. And, well, there'll be a new armor set. So that's nice. They also say here that you can upgrade your restored burial weapons into illuminated ones. The main concern on the community right now is that obviously last patch we made the restored ones, and a lot of us have salvaged them away now, or deleted them, or just using other weapons and skinned over them. So we've earned them all, but now we've got rid of them all. And people are panicking, and they're going to be so upset if all of a sudden now they need them back to turn them into illuminated ones. I'm hoping ArenaNet has seen that possibility, and even though it's describing it as upgrading your weapons, maybe it will just be, okay, do you have the skin unlocked? Then here you go, this new vendor is available for you, something like that. The new variation, illuminated stuff, maybe we have a screenshot of? I'm not too sure. And then they say complete story achievements, trade with locals to earn minis, guild hall decorations. I love that these get in the major patches, not just festival ones now. And there's a new emote. This shouldn't be too much of a surprise. But remember, the prologue did add all that new user interface and that idea of having emotes as a rewards. And, well, we go on with it. Here's the screenshots. We'll just scroll through. Honestly, I don't know the Bureau Marches as it currently exists well enough to really be able to detect as we scroll through these exactly where we are with respect to the original map. This is an interesting one. Doesn't it look like there's almost something in the rock there? Doesn't it look like that's an arm, this is the head, and that's like its chest, its torso? Am I crazy? Doesn't it look a bit like that? I'm obviously not suggesting that's actually going to burst out in some kind of event. And so then we get like the ice caves here. We get lots more of that. This is probably my favorite screenshot. I really like the curves in the image and the lighting. We get some mushrooms there. Not sure whether they'll actually be interacting with anything. This is also a really beautiful shot. Probably something to do with the story. Some hidden place that we'll go to. And we loop back to the start. So that's the release page. That's generally what's going on. Let's spend the rest of the video talking about the trailer and what we see there and what exactly was going on. So first of all, letting this roll through on a bit of a lower volume. What do we have? Well, look, this idea, you can see Bram's with Jarvie at the start here. We have Bram seeming to meet with this shrine. It looks like Wolf. Now, remember, Bram is of Wolf, okay? This was one of the big things that I criticized about his decision back in Season 3 when we weren't friends with him and so on. So it makes sense that he'd commune with that spirit of the wild. The devs basically are introducing this idea that because he broke the tooth and there's this prophecy, that now he's special and he can become a true Norn. And there's that shot of those spirits there with like the fiery version of the spirits, the lost spirits that he needs to commune with somehow. So what does it mean for a spirit to be lost? The devs talked a lot way back when about the idea that we were going to learn more about the spirits of the wild. And well, that seems pretty obvious. It's interesting because the whole Norn breaking the tooth is a prophecy thing. I never really thought of it as actual magic or a real prophecy. You could go to Holbrak since launch and listen to the Norn talk about it and have conversations with the Norn. And some of them were very cynical and just said, look, it's just a thing we tell people to stop them running off and killing themselves against Jormag. If you haven't broken the tooth, you're not going to make it, so it's kind of to hold you at bay. You know, the 2012 stuff was really nuanced, and it was interesting to wonder, is this real or not? And I guess now we just get an answer. Yeah, it's real. And of course that means that Bram has become a very important character. You might begrudge that, but I kind of like that one of these characters we spent a long time with looks like they might amount to something. Could be a really good moment for a rug pull where suddenly he fails or whatnot. But that's really what I'm getting from the story gist here. I'll have to actually play the patch itself, obviously, to really know how I feel. I am interested in knowing more about the Lost Spirits. You've got that cool area in Holbrak I went to just recently for a Legendary Collection that teaches you a little bit more about them. It's not just Owl. And to see maybe like these come forward somewhat in the story, will we get attunement masteries to do with them at some point? It's going to be curious for sure. There's also those talks of the Coden, which are so similar to the Norn in so many ways, and their beliefs are like just a slightly different twist on it. We saw the Coden featured prominently in the initial presentation, so I wonder whether this episode finally will see more of them. There were some really creepy and awesome little moments about the Coden in the last patch. about their hunger and about the bone skinners and stuff that I'd love to see go even further. So yeah, let's do a bit of a frame by frame. If it's just a pretty area like this, I'm not going to linger on it too much because, I mean, what can we have to say? Doesn't look like, unlike with the Season 3 and the Season 4 trailers that we could pick through, it's not like we can see volatile magic in the area that we'll be collecting. Who knows what this is? I do like to consider, though, what it might be like to fight Drakkar in a place like this. I'll note that we are under ice. Like fully under ice, and there's some kind of ancient ruin here. You remember that on the release page they described this as uncovering the hidden half of the map. Now you might just take that at face value and be like, okay, well, it was hidden, that's why we couldn't explore it last patch, and now it's unhidden. But I look at a shot like this and I think they might be doing something a bit more literal than that. That it's like there were ruins and things under the ice. That still lines up with what we know about this world and what was introduced in Eye of the North when we could go to the depths of Tyria and find all these kinds of places. Question is, who built them? What are they for? Are they all just to do with the spirits of the wild? I mean, we see that architecture there. This is probably the first instance of the story as well, because we can see this is the same adventuring band that now appear in this group. By the way, is this Garm with him here? It totally is, right? Yeah? That's a pretty cool little moment. We got to speak to Garm in the personal story. I wonder if they ever do that. Here we get the Coden just sort of sitting around, wondering what they're all about. Here's a Coden worshipping. This is totally what the Sons of Svanir make, right? This is like an Icebroody totem. This is always in association with the Sons of Svanir. So what, are they following along with that somehow? You can see he crouched down and then his head started getting that swirly effect. Let me rewind slightly. Let's do a proper frame by frame here. See this? The Coden looks fine, and then... Well, actually, does he? No, he just always looks it. This guy, I think, is being manipulated by Jormag, because if you remember last patch, when we got whispered to, if you looked at your actual character, they had this kind of effect over their head. This guy, meanwhile, doesn't. But hey, we'll see. So then we see an image of the lost spirits and their shrines. We get a recap of Bran breaking the tooth. I'll note as well, it's also important for this to mean something. Otherwise, the Bitterfrost Frontier patch from a long time ago now will forever look pointless. It will be like one of those Season 3 moments where a member of Rox's warband comes and acts suspiciously, but nothing happens. Or a weird dude sees us in Season 2 from the top of a cliff, but nothing happens. Or we hear about an amulet to do with the royals in Kryta, but nothing happens. This was Season 3, where the devs really seemed to have a good sense of what the story was they're telling and so on. And this happened, and there hasn't been much of a payoff on it yet. This is the season for Bram to do cool things. So, yeah, he's reacting. Here we see his, like, Dragon Hunter wings, but they look particularly energetic. Am I crazy? Frostbite down in the corner. So often forgotten by us. Rox was back there too. He's with Timey here. Now, is that another flashback scene? This totally looks like Brisbane to me. Is that a flashback? Is that somewhere in Drytop or something from a long time ago? These two characters, we haven't seen really paired off together in the way they used to be for ages. Like, if you go back and replay some of that old stuff, you'll see just how, like, connected these two were. And that really ebbed away after Heart of Thorns, I think. So, maybe he's consoling her about her illness. She did make that announcement at the end of last season that she was destined to die. And Icebrood Saga so far hasn't talked about it, even though we've had 2 releases. We're on to episode 2 now. So yeah, the idea of becoming a true Norn, I know you guys are going to be looking to me thinking, what does that mean? I really don't have anything for you. The idea that there are different stages of Norniness and communion with the spirits of the wild. Well, you have the Norn, you have their Havrunes. I'm not sure there's much more. Is Bram becoming something of a Havrune here to lost spirits? I find it really interesting there's a Coden back there as well. It looks like he's clipping into, what was that, Wolverine, maybe? Bison, I think there was. But he's just behind it. So then we have Drakkar. And a little bit in the voiceover, I think, talking about it. Drakkar looks way spikier, way shinier, way more, like, aggressive than he did in Guild Wars 1. And I think that's fine and that's positive. If you actually look at what he was like in Guild Wars 1, again, it was basically an Easter egg. He was just under the ice. You weren't supposed to scrutinize it. If you check out someone like that shaman who data mined and pulled the model out, it really looked a bit derpy and dumb. He's still got the general same body shape, but he's free from the ice. I saw someone leave a negative comment suggesting that he's too small. I really don't think, if they're going from the Guild Wars 1 model, that he is that small. It's just a part of that Guild Wars 2 thing where we play characters that are bigger, with much wider FOV on our camera, that's zoomed out really far, and the sense of scale of things, while being the same, your sense that things are big in Guild Wars 2 is way harder to achieve just because of the way that our cameras work, and especially when you mix mounts and stuff in. So, you know, if you take a big character in Guild Wars 2 and put it on a big mount, you are gargantuan. And then, of course, Drakar is going to start looking a bit smaller by comparison. To my eyes, he looks about where he was in the original game, really. So, yeah, we see the shrine, we see Bram, and he pulls at his face. It's kind of interesting, like that slight squint. I think the devs are quite proud of their mocap stuff. If you guys are keeping up with their streams, they do talk quite regularly about how much work they put into, say, that cutscene at the end of the last episode where Jormag was speaking to us through a corpse, and they were talking about how they made that cutscene. Hopefully we get some more cool ones. So yeah, Icebrood Saga, what do we have? Well, first of all, the Bureau March is expanded, and what's notable here is this is a Coden sanctuary that has run aground. An iceberg having run aground here, and who knows when this was an ocean. Will they talk about that, or is that just something artistic and fun to look at? These are cool, and I really like the Coden. I like where they come from, but the funny thing is, since 2012, the devs have never actually made a new type of sanctuary. They're always the same layout, right? They're always the same wooden things that come out. So whether this will feel like the sanctuary, say, in Bitterfrost Frontier, which was a similar situation, right? I don't know. But yeah, that one's obviously tilted and adrift. Very similar to Frostgorge Sound, I guess. We get another shot of it. An icy waterfall looking well up. No doubt that will be something we climb on a Springer or a Skyscale or something. We get some water that's actually flowing this time. We get... What variety of Icebrood is this? This is a corrupted Norn, maybe? Or is it a corrupted Coden? One of the two. The Norn, like, look different depending on if they were in bear form when they got corrupted, I think. Then we get the forest with the cool mushrooms. That screenshot was there. We actually saw an enemy in there as well. Not quite sure what that was. Still just talking about the expanded map. Some kind of mechanic going on here. There seem to be updrafts. Weird statues. Actually, no, they're not statues. They're just parts of the wall, aren't they, really? Well, we were interacting with something. The illuminated boreal weapon. So, yeah, this is actually pretty good looking, I think. One of the things I appreciate most about weapon sets you upgrade is when they look really rubbish at the start and you're tiering them. And that's really accomplished a lot here. If you compare this to the initial stuff we were collecting last episode, it looked rubbish. Now it's really swanky. So hopefully it's not too crazy to upgrade. Maybe they'll go really heavy with it and ask it to all be ascended. I would point out that last patch, episode 1, to me, didn't feel like an episode that the devs put less effort into necessarily, but it was an episode they were really, really liberal about how easy things were to complete. Nearly every achievement you could do in an instant. Nearly all of the skins you could do very quickly. You were inundated with the map rewards. You still are. So if the devs have come to regret that, and I think they should regret that, it was way too easy to just get in and out of that last patch. Maybe they can fix it a bit here with this new set. A bit like Dry Top, right? As they added new tiers to the meta and stuff, and what we could spend our geodes on. Maybe now these will be a little bit pricier. And I would cherish that, because it would counterbalance the insanity that was episode 1, really. Was that a worm behind them as well? Here we can see it in a bit of a different lighting. We can see the hammer, maybe. The new strike mission of facing the Whispers. Now, what did it say? Whispers in your head. And what do we have in the cutscene here? A player character, presumably, against what looks like the same kind of player character. I'm wondering if this strike mission is going to feel a bit like the doppelganger fight in Path of Fire, or just, you know, with a slightly smaller Zerg, or obviously the doppelganger fight in Guild Wars 1. There's actually been a few sequences in the game where you've had doppelganger fights. When we were joining the Shining Blade, wasn't there something similar? But I wonder whether it would be a thing where you, like, fight yourself. I think it would be really cool if there was some kind of boss, and every now and then a phase occurs where a blizzard rolls in, everyone gets split apart in different directions, and you're in like a mini arena to fight a version of yourself. You get through successfully, you return with the rest of the group. Bit like how maybe the Marionette split people up, but more personal, more individual. Because this definitely does seem like we have two Guardians here, right? One with a hammer, one with a greatsword. The thing about the doppelganger fight in Guild Wars 1 was how deeply it changed based on your build, and you know, the game's combat was that very card gamey thing, so there was a whole like extra layer to it. Well, if I add this to my build, he gets it on his build. If he gets it on his, I get it on mine. And that was the challenge, how to trick the AI, really, how to be smarter than your doppelganger. In Guild Wars 2, ArenaNet really can't do that. They can't copy all your traits and all your skills and everything onto an entity that is able to use them all. They just don't have stuff that complicated in the game, nowhere near. Not even the craziest raid bosses can do that kind of stuff and have that many things firing. So they just have like a generic thing that's your profession, but nonetheless has different skills, which is why one has a great sword, one has a hammer. Not too sure. Anyway, here we see the portals, which again, I've really said all I have to say about it. I think it's fine as a mastery, and my expectation is that they reflavor existing ones. They've been doing it for ages now. Hopefully we get other cool ones as well. You guys know that my general opinion of the mastery system is not that high in the first place. Here's the Raven armor set, and yeah, it's not cultural. We got it in a Sylvari, we got it on Asura. I actually kind of like this idea of being on a totally different race, but wearing something that is so, like, important to a specific race. It's almost like that multi-profession thing, except we're talking about flavor of races instead. But yeah, you actually get all the races, right? Norn, Char, Human, Asura, Sylvari. Very good. And what the acquisition will be like. Again, maybe it'll be something a little bit more challenging than last patch. We get the cut to black. We get this, right, which is interesting to me. These are all the characters in the story, everyone. But they are looking at Drakkar through the ice. You know what this makes me think of? Big fans of mine who watch my Final Fantasy X playthrough. It reminds me of looking at Evray flying out of the window in the airship as you fly towards Bavel. It's cool. And I remember, wasn't there a Call of Duty game or a Battlefield game or something that had an Easter egg recently where you look through a tank of water and you see some creepy monster out there? Am I wrong about that? Maybe it was in a zombies game type or something. But it really feels like that. But in short, I like this kind of stuff. I think it's cool. And we know that Drakkar is a world boss, but it will be a part of the main story too, because this is clearly in one of the story instances. Or maybe not. This could be in the open world too, to tell you the truth. They are at a point, and have been for a long time now, where the main characters appear in the open world. You know, there'll be heart vendors or whatever. But this just feels very, like, story to me, very instance to me. Maybe we get a hint of it in there, and then we have to go fight on the outside. A bit like Dragonfall, where we get a hint of the fight outside, and it also sort of synchronizes with what's going on inside. And here he bursts out. It looks pretty big. We also don't get his full body there. And his corruption is of that kind of new sort of color, that new Jormaggy, Icebrood Saga-y kind of feel. Still nothing to do with the Deep Sea Dragon, but my theory that the Deep Sea Dragon will be a part of the saga does continue. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And yeah, so January 28th, 2020, if they do interviews, if we get data mines, if we get just more information, stuff to discuss, I'll be continuing to give you guys videos on that. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about the announcement. I was surprised to see it today, honestly, and I will see you for the next one very soon. Take it easy, guys.